All right, so today we are doing a deep dive into something a little bit different. We're going to be looking at the concept of infantilization.
Interesting. Yeah.
We're going to be using this book over here as our source material,
Mm-hmm.
and I think this is going to be something that's going to hit home for a lot of people because we've
Okay.
all kind of experienced this in
Yeah.
different ways,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So where do we even begin with something like that? I mean, how do
well,
we define
the
it?
book does a good job
Okay.
of defining it. It basically talks about
Right.
how infantilization is basically
Yeah.
treating adults as if they were children.
Okay.
Right. So it's not
Yeah.
just like, telling someone what to do, but it's really about
Right.
diminishing their
Mm-hmm.
authority, their competence, their independence.
Yeah, and it's not always like this
Exactly.
overt in your face
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Right.
It can be these really subtle things
Mm-hmm.
that
It's exactly. It's
scream
not.
way at you.
It's insidious.
Yeah.
It's like, that analogy of the bonsai tree?
Oh, I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, a bonsai tree could grow to be big and strong,
Right. It's
right?
constantly being pruned.
Constantly being pruned and shaped and manipulated to stay small.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what infantilization does to a
I
person.
think that's a really good analogy.
So the book actually goes on to outline
Yes.
9 specific tactics of infantilization. And I think it'd be interesting to kind of go through these one by one
Go through them.
and see
Yeah.
how they
Absolutely.
manifest in real life.
Yeah. The first one that they talk about is
Right.
diminishing authority.
Okay, so what does that look like?
So basically, it's when someone makes decisions on your behalf without even consulting you,
Oh yeah.
or they
Yes.
just dismiss your opinions.
Yeah, like you don't even have a voice.
They're not even relevant.
Like your opinion doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I see this happen like in workplaces all the time
Yeah.
where
Absolutely.
you might have someone who's really competent.
Right.
They're really good at their job. They have great ideas.
Right.
But their boss or their manager will just completely override them and not even give them a chance to
Or even acknowledge their idea.
explain themselves or anything like that.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is that you see this playing out on a bigger level.
Yeah.
Historically, I mean, if you look at the way certain groups have been treated, women, minorities,
Right.
it's like their agency and their authority have
Oh,
been
really
given
some
them
respect.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the next tactic?
Okay, the next one is patronizing behavior.
Oh,
Okay.
have you ever been like talked down to?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like in this
The
really
slow, exaggerated tone
they're incapable of understanding simple
makes
concepts.
me feel like
Yeah.
less than.
And they do this under this guise of being helpful.
Yes, exactly.
But it's really
It's like, oh, honey, let me
Okay.
explain this to you in a way that your little brain can understand.
belittle you.
Yeah.
It's to make you
It's-
feel
it's
small.
Like I don't even know how to tie my shoes.
Exactly. Yeah. And it makes you feel
It's so frustrating because you're like, I am a competent adult.
Exactly.
I know what I'm
That's
doing.
what you're talking about.
I don't need you to talk to me like that.
And they're trying to take that away from you.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
So it's like a wolf in sheep's clothing kind of thing,
Absolutely.
where it's like they're pretending to be nice and helpful. Right. But really, they're just trying to
Undermine you.
undermine you.
Yeah.
What about withholding responsibilities?
Oh, yeah. That's another big one.
I feel like that's a classic parenting.
It is. And you see it a lot in
Yeah.
workplaces too.
Yeah. It's like that
Micromanaging bosses.
overprotective parent who just won't let their kid,
Yeah.
do anything on their own.
You're not capable of doing this yourself.
Right. And it's like,
Let me do it for you.
well, how are they ever going to learn
Exactly.
if they're not allowed to
It's all about fostering this
make their own mistakes?
dependency.
Yeah. But I guess there is a fine line between like,
Yeah.
providing guidance and being overly controlling.
Right. And I think that's where the intent comes in.
Yeah. Like sometimes people do need help.
Yeah.
They need support.
Absolutely.
They need someone to show them the ropes.
But healthy guidance
Yeah.
is different from infantilization.
So it's all about like finding that balance between
Yes.
supporting someone
Right.
and giving them the freedom to,
Exactly.
grow and learn.
To grow on their own. Yeah.
Okay. What's next on the list?
Okay, the next one is limiting freedom.
Oh, okay. So what does that look like?
You know all those rules
Hmm.
and restrictions that are placed upon you?
Like as a grown adult, you're like, I shouldn't have
But
to
as an adult, yeah.
ask permission for this.
Yeah, like
Like,
having to ask what you can wear, what you can eat.
yeah, or like even like when you can go to bed or something like that.
Exactly.
Like, come on, I'm a grown up.
Like you're being treated
I can make these decisions for
as
myself.
a child. Yeah.
It's so suffocating.
It is.
Okay, so what about dismissal of opinions?
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
That's a classic too.
It is.
It's like when your thoughts and feelings
Just
are
don't
just
maybe
completely brushed aside as if they don't even matter.
hold any value. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
And it makes you
we're talking to a brick wall.
question your own judgment.
Yeah.
It's like, am I wrong?
Like, am I crazy?
Am I crazy to be thinking this way?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like this often happens in relationships where,
Absolutely.
there's a power imbalance
Yeah.
where one person,
For one person's
you
voice
have, like they're constantly being silent.
is constantly being silenced.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that can really erode
It just makes you feel so
foundation of a relationship.
more.
Yeah.
Like you don't,
It
like,
leads to resentment
As
and
we do this is-
distrust. Yeah, absolutely.
makes you wonder how many relationships out there are actually like that,
Right.
where there's this undercurrent of infantilization.
Where it's like this unspoken dynamic
Yeah.
that's happening.
Okay, so we've got diminishing authority, we've got patronizing behavior,
Mm-hmm.
withholding responsibilities,
Yep.
limiting freedom, and dismissal of opinions.
Yes.
What's
Yes.
next?
Okay, the next one is emotional dependency.
Oh,
Okay, so this is where the infantilizer will
Mhm.
position themselves as like the sole provider of validation
know.
and support.
So it's like they need
They're creating
that person to feel good about themselves.
where you constantly need their approval.
Right.
Yeah.
It's that I know what's best for you kind of thing.
Yeah, like they have
Yeah.
all the answers.
I see this in friendships too,
Oh, absolutely.
where one friend will kind of always
Yeah.
put the other friend down,
Right.
or make them feel like they're not good enough
Make them feel like they need them.
unless they have their approval.
Yeah, and it's like they're getting some kind of psychological need.
Yeah, it's definitely a form of codependency.
It is, yeah.
Okay, what else is on the list?
Okay, the next one is undermining confidence.
Oh.
So this is where they will constantly question
Mhm.
your abilities, your decisions, your
Right.
judgments,
It's like they're just trying to make you
make you feel inadequate.
doubt yourself
Yeah. And it's interesting
at every turn.
how this one can play out in so many different ways.
Right.
Like it can be
And it's hard to call out the
advantage.
appearance.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, are they just trying to be helpful?
Or it can be
Or are they actually trying to undermine me?
about your career choices.
Yeah, and
And it can be really damaging to a person's
yeah, and it all chips away
self-esteem.
at your confidence over time.
Okay, so what are we missing? We've got diminishing authority, patronizing behavior, withholding responsibilities, limiting freedom, dismissal of opinions, emotional dependency,
Yep.
undermining confidence. What else is there?
Okay, so the next one is exerting control.
Okay, so what does that look like?
So this is where they're basically portraying you as incapable of doing things for yourself.
So they need to, as a means of control.
Be in control.
Yeah, and they create this narrative where you need to be managed.
Right, like they're the only ones who can
And need to be controlled.
take care of you.
Yeah, you need to be taken care of.
Right, and I see this a lot in,
Right.
I don't know, like the news with powerful people
Yeah, and they
who are trying to discredit their critics or
Yep.
their opponents.
let's frame it as concern,
Right.
protectiveness.
Yeah, like, oh, we're just trying to help this person.
But it's really
They're not
will.
capable of doing this on their own.
Maintaining power.
Yeah, it's so manipulative.
It is, yeah.
So that brings us to the final tactic,
Yes.
which
Which
is
is creating a power imbalance.
okay.
So this tactic really kind of ties all the other ones together because it's essentially about
Right.
establishing themselves
So it's like that puppet master
as the dominant figure in the relationship.
pulling the strings kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And making
Where
them
they're always
the subordinate one.
in control.
Yeah.
And you're always kind of
Leaving you feeling dependent on
powerless and dependent. Yeah.
That's a really powerful insight.
Yeah.
So I guess the big question is, now that we know all of this,
Right.
what can we do about it?
That's the $1,000,000 question.
Right. Like, how can we make sure that we're not
I think the first step is just awareness.
the bonsai tree pruner?
Right.
Yeah,
Being aware of these tactics.
right, because I think sometimes we might be
Yeah.
infantilizing other people without even realizing it.
Absolutely. We all have blind spots.
Yeah.
And so just being aware of these tactics
Right.
is the first step to making sure that
So it's about doing it us.
creating relationships that are built on
Exactly. And then once you're aware of them,
respect and equality.
you can start to examine your own behavior
Right.
and see, are you employing any of these tactics?
Right. It's all about
Even unintentional.
self-awareness
Yeah.
and just being mindful of how we're interacting with other people.
Exactly.
Wow. That's a lot to think about.
It is. So
Instead of saying oof at the end of this episode,
right.
I think I'm just going to say, like,
Yeah.
go out there and,
Yeah.
Be mindful.
Be mindful of interactions.
Yeah, and be the change you want to see.
To make sure that you're treating other people with respect.
Absolutely.
Giving them the freedom to grow.
Yeah.
I think that's a great place to end.
I think so too.
So, until next time, happy deep diving.
Happy deep diving.